Ah, sunshine, green grass, new growth. We here in Canada live for it, and we call it summer. And what do we do in summertime? Well, we break out our favorite piece of kitchen equipment of all. That's right, I'm talking about the barbecue. Well, actually, most of what we do on this thing is grill. Barbecue is another show. But I'm going to show you, with just a few helpful maintenance tips, you can keep yourself grilling all summer long. Welcome to The Basics. Grilling is a really easy way to impart both flavor and color into your food really quickly, so we should know how to use one of these things. Now today I'm going to be talking about a propane grill. You can also get charcoal and other ones as well, but for my purposes this is what I like to use. So instructions for other things might differ just a little bit. Here's what you need. I would recommend that at least once a season, if not more, you wipe down your grill. Using a cloth here, I've just got a rag that's got soap and water on it, preferably some sort of dish soap that's got a good degreasing agent in it. That's going to take some of that extra grease and grime off of your grill so that it's easier to work with. Also, I would recommend, if you can, you should have on hand an extra propane tank. There's nothing more annoying than when you're grilling away, you run out of propane, and then you have to figure out how to finish that beautiful food somewhere inside. Now, my choice of tools is really small. I try to keep it that way so that I don't get myself messed up, and I really find this is all I need. So, a good pair of metal tongs is very helpful to you. Mine are spring-loaded here, that's helpful as well. And a metal spatula would be a good idea to have. Those are really the only two things I handle food with. Additionally, if you're unsure about the doneness of food, it might be good to have a good instant read probe thermometer so you can check out what the temperature is really quickly for yourself. And if you're dealing with smaller items on your grill, it might be a good idea to have some sort of pan. This is about a 9-inch by 13-inch pan or a quarter sheet pan. I got this thing used because I knew I was going to beat it up even more, so I just went for something simple. That is all that I really use. If you have other gadgets you like, you're welcome to it, but I find space is limited and I don't want to bumble with different things. Now, for caring for my grill, I have two things I work with. One is a rag that I've attached to the end of a little brush here, and I use oil on this so that I can lubricate my grill. And when it comes to cleaning my grill, I have taken and purchased a piece of cedar. You might have seen some of those terrible horror stories about people with the wire brushes and getting those in their food. Of course, look carefully if you're doing that, but the new trend, of course, is to go to a wood-based scraper. You can spend 20, 30, 40 more dollars on one of these things, but I'm too cheap for that. So I went to the hardware store and I got myself a nice piece of cedar plank, chopped it up into a piece for myself, and I used that. The first couple of times you use it, you're going to want your grill nice and hot so that it's going to create some grooves to work with, and then I use that to scrape away. This way, I'm not going to have any of those horror stories going on, and I'm going to get my grill nice and clean. For my grill top itself, I've tried a few different things, and I really enjoy using cast iron for my grill surface. Other ones can work fine too, but I find just like you season a cast iron griddle inside, season my grill, and then I scrape it down with my wood scraper here, and I'm good to go. Before we fire up the grill, I think we should have something to put on it. So today, a meat and a veg seems appropriate. We're going to deal with some broccoli, and then later on, we'll tackle some chicken burgers as well. Before I cut up the broccoli, let's talk a little bit about a cutting board and knife. Notice this is a green board I have here. I don't do any meat on this. That way I have no cross-contamination going on between them. Additionally, whatever knife you choose, make sure that the size of the knife is appropriate for the board that you're cutting on. As a general rule, your knife should be able to fit diagonally on the board and not hang out on the edges. That way you know you've got enough room to work with. All good for me, so here we go. When you're choosing broccoli, I would choose your whole broccoli. Don't just choose the crowns. One, they're more expensive, and two, the stems here are good stuff, a good value in the way of vitamins, and they're tasty, so we'd like to keep some of that. Two, dispatch my broccoli. I'm going to take and chop off the crown first, and I'll deal with that in a minute. I'm just going to leave those pieces to the side. With the stem, as you get closer to the bottom here, it dries out and it's kind of woody. So I'm going to chop off the bottom part of the stem and discard that. Now this piece of the stem is still good to use, but I'm going to get rid of some of the outsides of it. So I'm just going to kind of peel it off in a sort of square shape here. Again, the outside pieces we're going to discard, and the inside here I'm going to make them into some chunks that are an appropriate size for my grill. That looks about good to me. I'm going to do the same with my other head of broccoli. Now, for the crowns, you want everything to be about the same size. So I'm going to kind of pick through this, and first of all, take the pieces that are smaller and just leave them whole as is. When I get to the center parts and the larger parts of my broccoli here, I'm going to cut it up into pieces. So I'm going to maybe cut that in half into two pieces. For this one, I might pull off some of my outside edges first of it, and then chop that up into some smaller pieces. The goal here really is to get them all uniform in size. So however you go about doing that is up to you. We don't really need to do a whole lot to our broccoli to prepare it. We are going to need some olive oil. We're looking for probably about 2 tablespoons. It doesn't matter exactly, so I'm going to drizzle it over top. And then I'm going to take and mix this about so that the olive oil coats my broccoli fairly well. I think I'm a little shy there on my olive oil, so I'm going to add a little bit more. To cook this, I'm going to use that quarter sheet pan that I showed you at the beginning. So I'm going to take, and I'm actually going to oil this a little bit too. Drizzle some oil across the surface there. We really don't want this broccoli to stick, so we want to make sure we're well lubricated before we start. Dump your broccoli onto your tray. And then sprinkle with salt. Now let's set that aside and deal with our chicken. I treat my chicken burgers differently than I treat beef burgers. For beef burgers, all you really need is beef and salt. That's it. That makes a true burger. What we're making today is actually a meatloaf because we're going to add binders and some spices to it. But really, I think it does better on the grill, and it's tasty. So we'll try to keep this as simple as possible. You need a pound of ground lean chicken. That's 454 grams. To that, we are going to add a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of dried parsley flake. You could use fresh if you want to. That way, in that case, you're probably going to go with about a tablespoon worth. Then we need a teaspoon of dried onion flake, or you could use onion powder. That's fine too. I'd avoid fresh onion in this case because fresh onion isn't going to cook down quite as quickly as we want it to. We also need a teaspoon of minced garlic, or you could go with 1 clove of garlic, minced up yourself if you'd like. And then we need half a teaspoon of dill, followed by a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and 1 whole egg. For a little bit of extra binding power, we're going to put in a 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs. I like panko breadcrumbs, but you could use any sort of breadcrumb you'd like. Now there is no better device for mixing these than your hands. They will allow us to mix appropriately and to create our burgers. So as long as they're clean, get in there. You're going to mix those up thoroughly. And then we're thinking about dividing this into 6 portions. So even in the bowl there, you can start to kind of divide for yourself. I'm going to go in half, and then I'm going to divide that into thirds around my bowl. That's approximately 6 burgers right there. Take one of those in your hand, make sure it's all together, and then we're going to kind of round it out and flatten it. Once you've got yourself a nice patty going on, put an indentation into the middle. These will shrink some as they cook, and then they're going to come together and they want to rise in the middle. So if we create an indentation here, then we're going to have a nice flat burger when we're done. Set that carefully onto a plate and move on to your next one. Repeat this process for all 6 of your burgers. All right, I've got my 6 burgers ready. I've got my broccoli ready. Let's go fire up the grill. 2 minutes of maintenance work for your grill will go a long ways to keep it healthy and happy. Step 1, make sure you turn on the valve right on the top of your propane tank. Step 2, take a rag that's only for greasing your barbecue and take about 2 tablespoons of oil. Make it something that'll take high heat. Vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, any of those will do, and there's others as well. Avocado oil. Rub it across your grates. This will make cleanup easier, and it will make sure that your food doesn't stick as much to the grates. Step 3, turn your burners on high. Close the lid and walk away. Well, walk away until you get to somewhere between 350 and 400 degrees. Then we're ready to grill. I'm up around 350, so it's a good time to get that broccoli on. I'm going to take and put this near the back so that I've got room later for my burgers here. And I don't want the temperature here to continue to rise, so I'm actually going to take and turn down my burners to about medium-low. I want to be able to maintain the temperature here with a nice flame, not make it hotter and hotter until we've got combustion going on. Every couple of minutes or so, you're going to want to get in there and stir your broccoli. So it's been about 8 minutes or so. Now, the manly men like to say barbecuing and grilling is just for them, but really, this is actually quite a delicate process. We're really using this more like an oven with flames underneath it, not so much this giant flaming grill. So I really want to keep this steady and resist the urge to turn it up and char these burgers so that they'll be done well. Now, my burgers here are still pretty loose at this point. They will come together as they cook, but I'm going to be kind of delicate getting these onto the grill here. So I'm going to actually use my spatula to transfer them. Now, this has touched my meat, so I'm not going to go back into my broccoli with it so that I don't cross-contaminate. So I'm actually going to do the rest of my stirring here with my tongs. Make sure to keep these separate. No touchy-touchy. As a general rule, it's a good idea to check in on your burgers or whatever else you're cooking about every 2 minutes. Resist the urge to keep opening up that lid over and over again, because then you lose all your heat and all your cooking. They're looking pretty good underneath there. I've got a nice grill mark going on there, but it still needs some more time on that side. So I'm actually going to take and I'm going to rotate them about 90 degrees. That'll give me some pretty hash marks on here, and it'll allow me some more cooking time. Time to flip. Over time, you'll get to know your grill. You can see here, I am cooking hotter here and here than I am in these locations. So don't be afraid to switch things around to even out your cooking time. Onward! Now my broccoli is pretty much done here. So I'm gonna take that off. Please use a glove. Get that out of the way so that I don't overcook my broccoli, and let those burgers go for just a couple more minutes. Unsure of what it should look like when it's coming to the end? Well, these bubbles here that are coming out, That's a good sign. That means that my liquids in there are starting to reach that close to boiling point, and they want to push their way out of the meat. But our handy dandy thermometer can always come in hand too. We are looking for a doneness of about 165 degrees, and hopefully not too much beyond that. Let's see where we're at. Hey, we are there. So, time to remove. Notice, new plate. Don't use the old one unless you're gonna go and wash it in between, because we don't want all of that raw chicken in our bellies. Turn off your burners. And now is the perfect time to go and scrape it down. Your grill will clean the easiest when it's nice and hot. And then don't forget to turn off your propane, please, just for extra safety. Grilling really is for anyone, at any time. So, soak up the sun and grill more.